All right, it is 8:05, so I'm going to get going. Welcome to day 37 of our class. Today we're going to go over basically three object-oriented programming examples. And with two of them, I'm going to write them in two ways just so you can see the difference between them. Tomorrow, I'm going to do approximately half of the homework examples. Now, as always, today, since these are practice examples, I will save those out to a repository. Tomorrow, due to the fact that they're homework examples, all right, I will not be saving those out to a repository. Also, you're getting 2 days of lab time this week because this is probably the hardest thing we've done all semester. So Wednesday will be a lab day, all right? No emails will be sent, no taping done. Thursday, we'll go over the pretest. Now, the pretest is actually going to be very similar to one of the problems that we're going to look at today, all right, that we're going to do in two different ways, but that's okay. One of the things that I'm finding out, I guess it's taken time for me to find this out, maybe where it probably shouldn't have, but one of the things about this is the fact that I don't think that I can really give too many examples, and we can't go over things too many times. All right. All right. So Thursday we will go over the pretest. Friday will be another lab day. So there's no tests, no hands-on tests this week. Rather, next Monday, you will take the chapter 12 the chapter 12 hands-on test, C# hot number 6. So that'll be a week from today. As always, I'll email it to you by 7 a.m. We'll go over it for about 20 minutes. The instructions at this time, so 8:05 till about 8:25. And as always, it'll be due that evening. All right, your chapters. Now, before I say this, I did grade everyone's hands-on test. All right. Not only were they graded, not only was the grade book updated, but also I sent you a copy of the test so you could see if I took off any place where I took off. All right. If you have any questions on that or disagree with what I've done or whatever, that's, of course, you're right. You should always fight for every point you can. Just get back to me and let me know. All right. Okay. I've started to grade the written tests and homework. I haven't gotten very far. They were not due until last night. So I hope to be able to work on those tonight. And everybody who's got stuff done, hopefully you'll have most of that graded. All right, if not all of it, by tomorrow morning. All right, your chapter 12 homework and written tests. And again, we will go, and that should just say written test, I guess. But your homework, there are 6 problems. We're going to go over 3 of those tomorrow, and we're going to do them slowly. All right, those are due by next Sunday at midnight. And again, a week from today will be your C# hot number 6, so the hands-on test from Murox chapter 12, and that'll be due by midnight. All right, so with that said, let's get going. Now, to start with, what I'm going to do here is I want to show you this. All right, this is for chapter 12, this is the problem that you're supposed to do. Now, I've got it done already, and I'm just going to walk through with you what I did. I will tell you that there is nothing like this on your hands-on test. It is not a problem like this. I personally don't like the fact that Muroc decided to go through something where they're including information from chapter 17 in chapter 12. They did it, so I'm going to go over it. All right, I've got this program here. You're going to see it in just a couple minutes. All right, after we get done with that program, which shouldn't take that long, I wouldn't think, but we'll see. Then I'm going to do the BMI program that we had done earlier, but I'm going to do it twice. What I mean is I'm going to do it once without using a validator class, and then I'm going to go and add a validator class to it. Then after that, we're going to do the same thing with our typical employee gross pay type of thing. So we're starting slowly. Tomorrow, what I plan on doing with you, just an FYI, because this is the homework for chapter 12. All right, if for some reason you don't have it, let me know, I'll send it out again. But I plan on doing number 1, this flashcard example, and I want to especially go over this. I plan on doing number 2, this bank login example. And again, we will be going over this. And then number 3, the game break database. You are still responsible for doing all 6 of these. All right. And again, I'm not going to save this tomorrow as a GitHub repository. All right. So number 4 is the same one we did earlier, and it's going to be very similar to number 3, but you're going to sit there and create a searchable database based on the movie library, as opposed to doing it as with the game thing. Then number 5 is this job estimate. All right. And maybe we'll even go over one of those. Let's just see where we are. 5 is easier than 6, so maybe we'll do 6 as well. I don't know. A lot of it'll be time dependent. But like I said, I want to make sure you've got a lot of practice. I actually think, again, this is my opinion. You might totally disagree with this a week from today, but in my opinion, if you can do the problems that are being assigned here in homework, you should be able to do pretty well on the test, if not very well on the test. All right, so again, this will be what we go over tomorrow. All right. So with that said, I'm going to start on this. Now, when you look at this, it says you'll need to add a class to the inventory maintenance app and then code 2 forms. So the top form that you see right here, where it says inventory maintenance up here, this is what comes up when you run the program. And it'll have information already in a file. All right. And in that file, there will be 3 pieces of information. You can kind of see them down here: an item number, a description, and a price. So if you click delete item on here and none of these here, if none of these are selected, nothing happens. If I were to put my mouse over Japanese red maple, so if I had that highlighted and I click delete item, the system will come back and say, are you sure you want to delete Japanese red maple? If I say yes, it'll be gone. If I say no, it'll still be there. If I click the add item button, this second form, this new inventory item comes up. There is nothing in here that is validating, as far as the only thing that's being validated is that the item number is an integer and that the price is a decimal, and that there is something in there for all 3 of these fields. But to my knowledge, for instance, if I went and clicked add item and I put all that same information in that you had right here, I think it would take it. I don't believe there's any checks or anything for that. All right. But we're going to take a look at it in just a moment. Finally, again, when you click the delete, as mentioned, if you say yes, it'll be gone. If you say no, it won't. Save, if you click save right here, what it's going to do is it's going to take all that information, it's going to write it out to the file, and it's going to save it to this list box. And when it saves it to the list box, it will repopulate the list box. So it'll have these 4 in it, plus it'll have all of that information in it as well. All right. Hopefully that I said that well enough that it makes at least some sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce back and forth between what you see right here and what I actually have in the code. Again, you will get the code for this. I'm going to keep doing these, not to confuse you, but I'm trying to be complete here. If there's something that you can glean from these examples that you can possibly use on a homework or on a test, great. All right. So I've built these. They're not going to be real little forms like this. Again, when I did it, I just made them basically look the way that I usually make stuff look. All right. So I'm going to show you this right now, and we're going to we'll start by looking at the inventory item class that's in here. All right. So let me bring this up like that. All right. So here it is. Again, you will get a copy of this by the end of the day today. So this is it. I just want to show you that if I do come in and save and I run the program, it looks just like it does in the book, except mine's a little easier to read. So if I add a new item and I put in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'll just call this Jeff's new item, and we're saying it's $99.77. I think you'd agree if you look, there is nothing in there called Jeff's new item. All right. And if I click save, now there is. All right. And if I click on this and I say to delete the item, if I say yes, it'll be gone. If I say no, nothing will happen. But if I say delete and I say yes, now it's gone. But what I want to show you before we do this, all right, I'm just going to exit this. And I want to show you that out on my C drive, C# files. Yeah, there's the file, inventory item.txt. And you can see there's the new Jeff's new item, $99.77. So you'll notice now if I go back here, all right, and I run this again, it's still there, it persisted. So if I delete it and I say yes, it's gone. So I'm going to exit. And now note that if I go back into my file here, that particular thing, Jeff's new item, is gone. All right, so all of that is working. All right, but with that said, let's go in and take a look, as I said, at what's going on in here. All right. In fact, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make a picture of this. Sometimes it's easier for me to bounce back and forth in this than it is to bounce back and forth in the other way. So let's see. So that's what we have. So I'm going to bring this up. And the first thing that said that we were supposed to do is look at this inventory item.cs file. So there it is. All right. Now, I don't know how it brought in this code analysis thing. I don't know, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Now, when you look in here, let's go back and take a look. It says we should have 3 properties: an item number, which is an int and it's required, a description, all right, which is a string that's required, and a price, which is a decimal that's required. So let's see what those are. All right, you can see that we have them right here. All right, notice we have the word required here, and up here we have sets required members. What that means is this pretty much should be self-explanatory. These 3 things here are required. That should make sense, hopefully, to everybody. All right. And that's exactly what I just read to you. This right here says, since it says sets required members, we have this. This is a constructor, inventory item. Notice we have a no-R constructor. So if we tried to create something new, and it's not going to work, but technically what it should do is set item number equal to 0, set description equal to the empty string rather, and set price equal to 0. But since these are required members, it's expecting it to go in like this. I want you to understand, all right, these things that you see these things that you see right here, those things that you see right there, all right, they are literally these three things that are right here. All right, you click the new item button or add item button, I'm sorry, that's over here. That brings up this form. So you saw before, I put in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Jeff's new item, $99.77. All right, then when I clicked the save button, what ended up happening was it came over, where are we? To here. And it said, oh, item number. So that was the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, description. That was Jeff's new item. And oh, the price. That was $99.77. So those three things, item NO, description, and price, we're using those to set them equal to these three things in here. All right. Then when we attempt to go in and display all of our text, okay, this right here, this thing that you see right here, that right there, when I started to run the program, we say that again, when I came in and started to run the program and it looked like this right here, that right there that you see in there, yeah, it's filling the list box, but it's basically doing it by calling this. It's got the item number, it's got the description, then in parentheses, it has the price. And like I said, item number, description, then in parentheses, there's the price. The reason that I'm doing this, I'm not trying, and I'm kind of harping on this for lack of better words, is I want you to understand we're doing what we did earlier, but we're doing it using classes. And before you go, yeah, I can kind of get that, but so for big hairy deal. All right. It is because one of the things that we could do, we don't do it here, but one of the things that we could do is for example, inside of our new item, instead of doing this, we could have come back into here. And when you click add item, we could have, for example, we could have gone in and grabbed a different file that had 50 different items in it and boom, brought them in at one time. All right. So what we're doing when we are creating these classes is we're creating a template. So we're able to create new objects, which in this case are our inventory items. All right. So everything that you saw in there, bring that back up again. All right. You saw the item number, you saw the description, you saw the price, you saw the get display text, and you saw the two constructors, both the no arc constructor and the full arc constructor. All right. So we've gone through, I think at least, all of that right here. All right. Now it says add code to implement the new item form. Let's look at that. All right, what does that mean? That means when I click this add item, what the heck is going to happen? All right, well, you can see in here that what I did, all right, was I called add new item. All right, and then let's look in here. These are all small routines. So what are we doing in here? It says add code here that creates an instance of a new item form and then gets a new item from that form. This should make sense to you. Now, since I'm using version 8, and this is what I did, I want you to realize that when I came in here, I want to show you something real quick, because this, pardon my French, but it's kind of a pain in the butt, but I think I've figured out a workaround for it. That if I come in here and start up a new session of Visual Studio right here and create a new project, and I want to come in here and I don't want to. We're going to go away from Windows Forms app.net and we're going to start using Windows Forms app C# without the .NET framework. All right, it's sort of a pain, and we'll get into that when you see the examples in just a few minutes. All right, okay, I'm going to stop right there. All right, so this is going to create a new form. This is the newer way of doing it. We could have also said new FRM new item. Notice I get no errors. It's doing the same thing. This is a newer way of doing this. So which one should you use? Yes, whichever one makes more sense to you. This is more typing, but if it makes more sense, do it that way. Totally fine. All right. Now, what we're doing here, I'll go back up to the top, is notice what we have here. We're creating right here a list of items. Right there. We need that. It's a list of type inventory item. So that list is going to hold every one of those things that was in that class that I just showed you. All right. And it'll be used to fill up the list box. All right. It's a list of type inventory item. We just called it items. And we are allowing it to be null. So if it was empty, we're not going to get any errors. All right. So we come in here. When the form loads, we call this get items thing, which we're going to go over in just a minute. That's the thing that uses the file that I wish they wouldn't have done it like this, but they did. And then we call fill item list box. Fill item list box, this should make sense, believe it or not, to all of you. Because really, all that this is doing in here, the only thing in here that this is doing, all right, the only thing that this is doing is it is clearing out the list box, and then it's filling the list box. And the reason that it calls this is every time when you first bring the form up, you want to show everything that's in the list box. When you add a new item, you want to show what's in the list box. When you delete an item, you want to show what's in the list box. You want to make sure that list box is always up to date and it has in it whatever items you've added. And it doesn't have in it any items you may have deleted. All right. So what we're saying here is, hey, this better not be null. In other words, we better not have left it empty. If we left it empty, don't do anything. There's no else in here. But otherwise, add it to our list. All right. Then call save items, which we're going to get to in a minute. But that's basically going to save it to that file and then fill the list box up again. So that's what happens when we click the add new item. When we click the delete item, all right, we're going to call delete existing items. This right here says basically show which item is currently highlighted. If nothing is currently highlighted, if that's the case, again, nothing is currently highlighted. So we just give the user a message. Hey, you must select an item to delete. All right. Or we can do nothing, period. So if we get down to here, that means that we want to delete something. So as it says, add code here that displays a dialog box to confirm the deletion. So it says, are you sure you want to delete Jeff's new item or whatever one there is? Then remove the item from the list, save the list to the file, and refresh the list box to show that it doesn't have in it anymore that particular item. So again, are you sure you want to delete this? And notice string interpolation. Then we use the dialog result. If they said, yes, we do, what are we calling here? Items.add. We learned that with a list box. That's how you add things to a list. Items.remove. That's how you remove things from a list. So after we remove it, we come in and we save it to the file and fill up the list box again. I don't have to go over the exit because it's the same one we've been doing. We don't even have an error message, but I just copied the whole thing in anyway. So that is everything that's in there. Now, there is the validator in here. Okay. And what do we care about? Is present. It has to be there. Is decimal. That's the price. Is in 32. That's the item number. There is no range in here. All right. I guess I don't think there is, at least. As far as I remember, we didn't put any range. In other words, we could have said in here that whatever the price is, it has to be positive. But I believe if you run it right now and you put in a negative number, which would be kind of silly to do, but if you did that, so I'll just put in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hello. And negative 4, 5, 6. See, it takes that. All right. Now, one thing we could have done is we could have said when you print this, print it out and put it in, run the absolute value function on it, which would have removed any negative connotation to this. But I'm just going to delete it anyway. All right. All right. So what's left in here then? Okay. We've talked about the FRM inventory maintenance. We've talked about the inventory item and the validator. How about the inventory DB? Now, this probably doesn't make a boatload of sense to you. That's to be expected because of the fact we have not yet gone over files. All right. But I want you to understand something. I wanted you to see that we could have run this in two ways. Over the weekend, when I graded tests, most of you did it the way that I did it, which was fine. A couple of you went outside of the box and came up with, you must have investigated on your own, which is great, that as an example right here, if you look, I've got this same file here, inventory item.cs. Whoops, no, I'm sorry, it was in here. Well, let me copy it in just to show it to you. Oh. In fact, we'll do it like this. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, I don't think I have the file in here. No, I do not. I'm going to right mouse click. All right. And I'm going to choose add existing item. And I'm going to tell it to go out to my C drive. All right. So those are my files. Now let's see. I've got to tell it what kind of file I'm looking for. All right. I'll just choose all files here. I want that inventory item file. So there it is. It's now in my program. All right. There it is right there. Inventory items.txt. Same file. All right. Why am I taking the time to show you this? I want to show you why I am right now. All right. Let me close a few of these things. We went over this one. We went over this one. All right. And we're on this one. If I want to refer to this file that is not on my system, it's not technically in the program, I tell it to go out to the C drive. I tell it to find a folder named C#. Underneath that, I tell it to find a folder named files. And underneath that, I tell it to find a folder, or I'm sorry, a file named inventory.txt. But what we could have done is we could have said, hey, you have to play with it a little bit to figure out where it is. But this says go up 3 levels. All right. And it's right here. It's the .txt file. All right. The one I just showed you. It's in here someplace. Right there. All right. So should you care, I just want you to see that if I run this, all right, and I don't think I've got it open. I don't. So if I come in here and choose add item again, just like we saw before, so I'll put in here 555,555,555. This is a new item. All right, and we'll make it $77.44. So you'll notice if I click save, boom, it's in there. All right, everything's there. I can delete it, and I will in a minute. But what I want to show you is if I stop the run and I bring up that TXT file, there it is. It's there. So I can either have the file be external to the system or internal to the system. So if I run it again and I remove this one that I just put in, all right, and I exit, and I go back to my file again, you'll notice that that is gone. So either way will work is what I'm trying to tell you. And there are other ways of doing it as well. But when we come in here, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but I want to mention to you, we're giving it the path to the file, whether we do this or whether we do this. The only difference is this one, it's internal, meaning it's in the program. This one, it's external, meaning that it's not in the program itself. The delimiter, what did we have between each one of these? That's a pipe sign. And when you look here, there's a pipe sign there in between everything that's here. So that's the delimiter. All right. Now, then we're calling, now this is a little different because this is a big routine that's right here. All right. Notice it's static, which means that we can just call it. We don't have to create an instance of this. But what I want you to see is get items must return a list of our inventory items. All right. What does that mean? Well, this means go out and our input file, all right, will be using what's in the path. Whether it's, notice it even shows. It says you're using that one. All right, and you're opening it up for open or create mode, which means you can make changes to it, even though the access there is read. All right, now you can make changes to it, but not directly in here. This is get items. So you're going to have to use the save items in order to make the change and make it, make it stick, so to speak. Then we create the new list. This, as it says, read the data from the file. This peek method, I've mentioned it, but we'll talk about it more in chapter 17. That it's a look ahead. And if it comes back with -1, it's reached the end of the file. All right. So what it says here is attempt to read. If you can read it, this is a double question mark. If you can read it, if there's data in there, put it into row. If there's no data in there, row should just contain the empty string. In other words, there's nothing there. All right. Then our columns are going to be split using that delimiter, which is the pipe sign. The number of columns better be 3. Why? Because there's an item number, there's a description, and there's a price. All right, so here we're creating the new inventory item. We're telling it to convert to int what's in the first column. No conversion needed because that's a string for the second column. And convert to decimal for the third column because that's the price. Finally, we come in then and we add it to our list. And we return it when we get done. Finally, when we save this, that's the whole thing right there. We're getting passed in a list of all of our items. So we're creating now an output file. So we're overwriting what's in this file every time we make a change to it, either this one or this one, depending on which of those paths we chose. And notice now we're opening it up for create. So if there was something in it before, it's blown away. And we open it up with with write access, so we can write to it. This right here is very similar when you look at it to what we did with console. But there we were printing it out to our console. We weren't saving a copy of it. Now we want to save a copy of it. So we're telling it where to save it to, and that's text out. All right. So I believe, let's see, let's go back to here. All right. So I explained how to implement the new item form. I explained the code in the inventory maintenance form. And that was it. I'm not going to use this create record struct. I'm not going to use that one. I'm not going to do that one. There is nothing in any test or homework that deals with records or structures. It's enough that you learn how to use classes, at least for now. All right, that's enough. All right, so that's what we have here. And again, if something doesn't make sense, you will have this. All right, but if something does not make sense, I look at it that it's your responsibility to email me and let me know. All right, because otherwise I have to assume that it does make sense. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create two versions of the BMI program. All right, so I'm going to come into my my solution here, and I'm going to add a new project. Again, I will add it, and I'm going to show you some of the bad things, so to speak, about this. All right, but I'm going to choose Windows Forms App C# right there. And I'm going to call this BMI OOP 1. And after the break, we'll do BMI OOP 2. All right. I'm going to go till about 9 o'clock, and then we're taking our first break. So click New. All right. We want to make sure that it's set to version 8. So we can use some of the new features and functionality that's in here and create. Now, it will come up. It takes a little bit longer doing it this way. But there it is. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do in here is I'm going to stretch this out. I want it to look a little nicer. So that looks good to me. And I'm going to change the color on it. You know I've done this plenty of times. All right. What you always should do is, as soon as you do this, you should just do a file, save all. Why? Because then what I found is when you do go in here and right mouse click and you choose rename, so I'll call this FRM BMI, and I hit enter, and yes, I want to save it. Usually it just saves it and there's no problem. All right. But if you don't save it first and you try to change it, occasionally there's a problem. And you've got to go in and monkey with what's in your designer CS file. And that's just a pain. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in here for my text, body, mass, index, program, using object-oriented programming, OOP, version 1. So there it is up there. And I'm going to change the color of it. All right, I just grabbed that. That's fine. Now, one thing that I did do, because I've already written this, I'm going to go over to my view code here and up at the very top, way up here. All right. Notice there's no using statements or anything in here, but I have written a comment here. And what does it say? It says that I want to go in and I want to create a program. All right. The program should have 6 labels: first name, last name, height, weight, body mass index, and body mass index status. Very similar to what we've been doing. It should have 6 associated text boxes. All right. For first name, last name, height, weight, BMI, and I've got the formula here. And the, that is wrong there. I'll have to fix that. That shouldn't be a person class. There should be more on here. This is the problem of me doing copy and paste. Sorry, let me fix this. All right, so 1 for body mass index status. And that will be calculated as underweight, optimal weight, overweight, or obese. All right, then we're not going to create a person class. We're going to create a BMI class with first name, last name, height, weight, BMI, and BMI status. We'll also override the two-string method. So you're going to see all of this in here, all right, in just a bit. But I want to grab the whole comment that is, come on, Jeff. I want to grab the comment that's right here, and I want to copy it into my program. So I'm going to put it on the very top here. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create my interface. Now you're going to see in just a second what a pain in the butt it is to create the interface like this. If you say, I don't know what you mean, please just watch. All right. I'm going to go back to design mode, and I want to come in here, and I'm going to start by coming in, and I'm going to create 6 labels. So again, these labels will be for the first name, the last name, the height, the weight, the BMI, and the BMI status. All right, so we're going to do those first, and then the associated text boxes. All right, so let me move these. I'm going to make these nice and wide. All right, that's not too bad. And I'm going to make 3 buttons. All right, this, as always, this will be our calculate. Make it nice and big too. All right, probably made them too big, but that's okay. We'll move these over. All right, so that'll be our calculate, clear, and exit. And I'm going to come in and make 6 text boxes. All right. And again, we'll make these nice and big. This is not by any means a perfect interface, but it looks okay. There we go. Again, not too bad. I'm going to move this over so it's a little more centered. I'm going to move that down, and I'm going to move this down. That'll work. All right. Now I'm going to take my whole interface as we've always done in here, and I'm going to change the font. And I'm going to make it 20-point bold Arial, as I always do. All right. And take these and center them. Take these, center them. All right. And now I'm going to take my interface and I'm going to lock it into place. All right. Now let's just build this thing, and then I'm going to show you some of the problems that are associated with this. All right. So this will be first name. I'm just going to start building. So this will be LBL first name. The next one will be LBL last name, then LBL height, LBL weight, LBL BMI, and LBL BMI status. All right. And we'll have our text boxes again with the same names. Uh, All right, these will be our calculate, clear, and exit buttons. All right, let's double check and make sure that everything has been renamed. And as far as I can tell, it all has. That's good. And as always, I'm going to set, and again, I guess I keep sounding like a broken record, but some of you lost points for not setting your accept button, your cancel button, and your tab order on the test. And it's going to continue to be worth about 5 points. All right. Now the BMI and BMI status are both going to be read-only fields. All right, so let's do the tab order. It will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So, all right, that's all done. We'll do the calculate momentarily. And notice nothing happened when I clicked it, but something did happen. And if you say, I don't understand, you will in a minute. Clear, nothing happened, except I'm going to get errors down here. All right. And then finally exit. Now I've got 3 errors. What the system doesn't do when you do this is it doesn't add that code in there for you. What code? Well, I'm going to go back to the example that I just did, this one that was from the book. Oops, I don't want that file, I'm sorry. And in that example that was in the book, I'm just going to go here and this save, I'm going to open this and I want to grab that line right there. All right. Now, there's probably a reason for what I'm showing you. I haven't investigated it, so I don't know what the reason is. But I'm going to come down here. If you remember, I have 3 buttons. So I'm going to paste here, and I'm going to put in here BTN calculate. All right, inside of curly braces. Then I'm going to copy it and put it in again. And this will be BTN clear, again within curly braces. And then finally, I'm going to copy it in again and put in BTN exit. And again, within curly braces. Oops, sorry. Don't want curly braces twice. So all my errors are now gone. All right. Why do you have to do it like that? Like I said, I didn't investigate why, but there appears to be a reason as to why. All right. Now, the key here is going to be what we do in calculate. But before we do that, when we click clear, we want to clear, 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 and put the focus there. So let's do that first. That'll be our old clear form that I've been using virtually all semester. All right, so it'll be txt first name dot text is equal to nothing. Txt last name dot text is equal to nothing. Txt height dot text is equal to nothing. Txt weight dot text is equal to nothing. Txt BMI dot text is equal to nothing. Txt BMI status dot text is equal to nothing. And finally, txt first name dot focus. All right. Showing me an error. No, it's not. All right. That I know I can check real fast. All right. We will in just a minute. Okay. In fact, what did I do here? I put that, I want to put it down below. All right. I don't want to call clear form in my calculate button. That would be stupid. We want to call clear form right here. Of course, in my clear button, and then paste it in. Okay. So there's that. So that's done. All right, and I'll check that out in just a minute. For the exit, as I've been doing all semester, I'm going to go back and just copy it in. I probably don't need a show error message, but I'm just going to copy the whole last thing in anyway. All right, so now I can come in here and I can check that stuff. So file, save all, run the program. Let me set it as my startup project. So again, I'm setting my startup project to BMI OOP1. There you go. And we'll run it. Okay. All right. So I should be able to put stuff into these 4 text boxes, come down here, clear appears to work, exit also works. Okay, good. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, we're going to take a break, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here into my project. I'm going to right mouse click. So I'm in my project here. All right. I am going to right mouse click. And then after I right mouse click, I am going to come in and I am going to add a BMI class. All right. And I just called mine person because I could have called it BMI. It would have been fine, but I called it person. So I'm going to come in here and add, and I'm going to tell it to add a class. And it says, what do you want to call it? There it is. So it's person.cs. You'll notice again, it is totally going to be a text file, and there it is, person.cs. All right, I'm going to make one change. That is, I'm going to make this public. One other change. Probably don't need any of these. So I'm going to go right there. I've got 8:59. Let's come back, please, at 9:10, and we'll pick it up then. And I will be right back. All right, it is 9:10, so I'm going to continue and we're going to come in and start to build this. Now, there are multiple different ways this can be done. All right, I'm going to show you one of them here. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create my class variables. All right, they're all going to be public and there's going to be 6 of them. So public string, first name, and get set. Public string last name get set. I don't need this string empty. All right. Public decimal height with a get set. Public decimal, notice the things I want with, which I don't, but I'll just change that to weight. All right, and 2 more. So a public decimal BMI, with a get set, and a public string, which is going to be our BMI status with a get set. So those right there, those are our class variables. Why am I taking a second to even mention this to you? Because if we go back, and this is what we're going to spend some time on, so that would be what we'd have in here. Whoops. That's these. All right. Now, I'm also going to set up a full arg constructor. I don't want a no arg constructor in there. I want a full arg constructor. All right. So public, when you do a constructor, it's public and it's the name of the class. So person, there is no return type on it. And in here, I'm going to have string. I'll call it FN for first name, string, LN for last name, decimal, H for height, decimal, W for weight, decimal, we'll just call it still BMI for BMI, and string. We'll call it stat for the status. All right. So this, every time that I come in here and I create the calculate, it's going to validate that everything is okay in these 4 fields. If they are, it's going to create a new person object, and it will pass in their first name, their last name, their height, and their weight, which I have put in, which the program will validate, and the program will create BMI for me and the BMI status. So all of that stuff will be passed when we go in to create a new person. All right. So we come in and I can just let the IntelliSense put it all in for me. So that's it. All right. Now, what else do we need to do? Well, we need to calculate the BMI, right? And the BMI status. Okay. So I could do these in 2 different routines, but I just put them into one. So public void BMI and BMI status. All right. So the BMI is just equal to, this is what we've been doing, the weight divided by, and I can say either height times height, which is what I'm going to do, or I could use the math.pow function and do it like that. All right. And one more. And this whole thing will be multiplied by 703. That's our BMI formula. All right. Nothing new there. And even with this, I could have come in and used constants. We could put constants in here. So I can come in here where we've got all this stuff. And I could have come up to the top and I can put in, declare and initialize program constants. All right. If you remember those from before, there'll be a const decimal, and we'll call this min optimal. And I'll set that equal to 18.5 M. There'll be another const that's in here, a decimal that will be min over, and that'll be equal to 25.0 M. And finally, there'll be one more const in here, decimal, which will be min obese, and that will be set equal to 30.0 M. We didn't have to do that. All right. By no means did we have to, but it'll make the program look a little cleaner. So now I can come in here and say, if BMI is less than min optimal, so in other words, if it's less than 18, then the BMI status is going to be equal to underweight. And again, this is so similar to what we've been doing in the past. That should be an if. That's why it's giving me the error. Okay, we'll put that on a new line. There we go. All right, whoops. And there is everything that's in there. All right. Finally, I'm going to override the toString method. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to put in here public override string toString. It even figures that out. Now, I'm going to change this, but don't worry about it. What that is saying is when I tell the system to print out a person object, this is what's going to run. All right. And I did use our string interpolation in here. So name, and we'll put in the first name, first name, and a space, and then the last name. All right. So that's the first thing. And then we'll have the height. And that height will be in inches. And then we'll have the weight. And that will be in pounds. And then we'll have the BMI. And we'll make that to 2 decimal places. And finally, we'll have the status. Okay. And that should be everything. Oops. I can learn to type, and that should be everything. So what are we doing in there? When we tell it, and we're going to add this to a list box, which I probably didn't add, but that's okay. We'll fix it in a minute. All right. And for each person that we add, it should have their first name, last name, then their height, followed by the word inches, then their weight, followed by the word LBS for pounds, then BMI, followed by their BMI calculated BMI to 2 decimal places, then their status, which should be underweight, optimal weight, overweight, or obese. All right. So that's the end of that particular class. But in here, I should have made this wider and I didn't. So let's do that now. And what do I mean? Well, I want to add a list box right here that's going to be printing out these people as I create them. That should be okay. It's not great, but it's fine. which means I can now move these over too. So yeah, that's about right. Okay. All right. So now I want to come in and start actually doing stuff in my calculate routine, which of course, as you know, I'm not doing right now. All right. So we're going to write the calculate routine, but before we do that, there are going to be some constants we're going to put into this program. So again, I will declare and initialize our program constants. And they will be min height, min weight, and max weight. All right, we'll make them decimal, just so everything is decimal, but I could just as easily have made them an integer. Copy that. So there's our min, there's our max, there's our min weight, and there is our max weight. All right. All right. So there's all that. Now, in this first iteration of this, all right, I'm not going to use the validator class. I want to say that again. In this first iteration that we're doing right now on this, I am not going to use a validator class. Then we'll come back and I'm going to do a ton of copying, but we'll add the validator class so you can see the difference between the two. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing in here into a big try catch. And all I'm going to catch here is just going to be a regular exception. All right, we'll fill all this in right now then. All right, so what do I want to do? Well, I want to get the data from the text boxes. All right, and when I say the data, it's all the data that I'm inputting. So I'm going to say string first name equals txt first name.text.trim. Do I have to do this? The answer is no. But if I don't do this, I'm going to be constantly typing in stuff like this, which to me is just, it's too much typing. So I'm just going to declare it once up here. And here I'm going to have to do a decimal dot parse txt height txt height dot text dot trim, and then we'll do it again for the weight. I am hoping that by now there's nothing right there that you've seen right there that surprises you or that doesn't make sense to you. All right. So here I'm going to validate the height. And in just a little bit, I'm going to validate the weight. All right. So if height is less than the min height or height is greater than the max height, all right, we'll call our show error message. All right. And we will put in here height must be between min height and max height. Inches. And then the heading will just be invalid height. Okay, so there's that. And then we'll just return. Now, what we can do, rather than just returning here, we could say txt height dot text equals nothing, and then txt height dot focus. Probably would have been cleaner. I didn't do that in mine, but it would have been a cleaner way to do that. All right, so that is validating the height. Now I'm going to grab every bit of it, just change all of my H's to W's. So now I'm validating the weight. And instead of inches, I'm going to say pounds. And again, change that and change that. All right. Okay. Now I've got most of my work is now done. Again, there shouldn't be anything else in here or anything we've done that should be a big surprise to you. All right, I'm going to fill this in because it's giving me a warning right here, and that's what we're seeing down here. And I'm just going to say message box dot show. In fact, I can do my show error message. Show error message, and I will put in here ex.message plus, and then we'll put in a couple blank lines plus, and then I'll put my own error message in here that just says height and weight must be valid ints. All right, if you don't like that, you could have put in, of course, anything you want. All right, and I'll just put in here error in input. Okay, so that's done. But now that I'm in here, if I get down to here, in fact, now that I think about it, I should have a return right here. And I should have a return right here. So what am I doing here? I'm validating the height. If it's invalid, I'll let the user know and I'll return. If we get down to here, we had a valid height, which means that the height was between 12 and 96. So now we want to validate that the weight is between 1 and 777. So we do that. If it's out of range, we do this and return. Otherwise, it's cool. So if we get down to here, it was a valid height. It was a valid weight. Well, that's good. So now what can we do? Well, we can create our person. And we can pass in the first name, the last name, the height, and the weight. All right, now it doesn't like something, so let's see what it doesn't like. It also is telling me that if you look here, the new can be simplified. So I can use that. Well, I guess that's basically, it means I could come in here and get rid of the word person if I wanted to. Okay, so let's see in here. In here in our person class. All right, I screwed up. So let's talk about why I screwed up and how I screwed up. Okay, we're not passing in a BMI and a status. We are calculating those in here. So that should actually look like this, which means I don't need these two. Everything's cool now. All right. Okay, so public person, that's fine. All right, so let me do a file save all here and go back to where we just were. Now, when I come in here, now, all right, notice that that's not an error. But what I can do, I want to calculate the BMI, right? So this, I'll put in a thing here that says instantiate a new person object, because that's what I'm doing. This will be calculate the new person objects BMI. So it'll be person dot, and if we look in here, all right, if we come in here and we look, at what's in there, there should be, well, is there a calculate BMI? If there isn't, I didn't make one. So let's look back here. Nope, we called here BMI, we called it this, BMI and BMI status, okay? All right, now I'm looking at this and I should be able to say person dot BMI and BMI status. What that is going to do is that is going to create both the BMI and the BMI status. All right, so the only thing to do, well, first I want to add the BMI and the BMI status to their respective text boxes. So TXT, let's see, TXT BMI.text equals person.BMI. All right. Now, when I do that, okay, it's giving me an error because it's a number. So I need to say dot to string, or I could have done this using string interpolation, but I'll do it like this. And then TXT BMI status, and that's going to be equal to person dot BMI status. Now that one doesn't have anything. There's nothing we have to do in there, but let's see, it doesn't like something. So it says cannot, oh, it's because I didn't put dot text here. Okay, let's line these up. So as it says, this should be putting those results in there. We're not done, but we should be able to run it. Notice if I leave these blank, which is what I'm going to do, I get my message, error in input. The input was not in the correct format. Height and weight must be valid in. So that's the system message, and that's my message. All right. And that's the only thing it's checking. I could have checked to see if there was something in these also. I didn't. But if I put me in there, all right, and I click calculate, notice what got filled in, the BMI and the BMI status. And now I can check my clear and all that works. So the only thing left to do is to add all this. All right, I want to add this to the list box. So add person to list box. And that's one line of code. LST, I think, what do we call it? Items? Let me look. LST, maybe I didn't change it. So let's look. No, we just called it list box 1. So what I've been calling this in all of our lectures is just LST results. So I'll call it that. Plus, it's going to be very small with the typing because it's set to 9 point right now. So let's set that to 20 as well. And so that should be good. So in here, we now want to say LST results dot items dot add our person. Now notice if we do this, it looks like it's not giving me any errors. But what I did on mine was I said dot to string. Okay. Okay, and I want to show you why I did that. I'm going to remove this dot to string. I'm going to do it like that, just like that. So file, save all, and I'm going to run it again. We'll just put in John Doe. John's a fit person. So he's 72 inches tall and he weighs 170 pounds. All right. And it worked. I spelled Doe wrong, but it worked. But I know that sometimes when you do this and you don't do a to string, it just puts the whole name of the object over there. So I'm going to say here dot to string like that. All right. Now, the only other thing I want to do, because it looked like this was not wide enough, so I'm going to move these over like that. And I'm going to make this wider, about like that. And I'll move these over a little bit too. They're not bad where they are. So let's try out one more time. We'll do John's wife, Jane. And Jane is 5'6", so she's 66. And she weighs 111 pounds. So she's underweight, but you can see everything in here. This is from that overridden two-string method that we ended up putting into our person class. These are things that we are inputting. This is what we calculated from our person.calculate, calculate whatever it was. And so was this. And then we printed them. All right. So my hope is that what you're starting to see here is just how similar this is to what we have been doing. Is it the same? Of course not. We've added a person class in here. All right. This is the way that much of the software is written. I just want you to know that. This is the way much of C# has been written. Again, I just want you to know that. But we are truly using objects. That's our class. And the object itself is that. So class object equals new class. And these are the parameters that it is expecting. These or this is the method. We could have written that as two methods. Might have been a little cleaner. All right, but it works just fine the way it is. All right, now what I'm going to do is this. Let me do a file save all here because we're done with the first one. But I want to come in and add a validator class to it. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave this the way that it is. All right, and I'm going to right mouse click on here and choose add new project. Again, it's going to be a Windows Forms app, not with a .NET framework. And this will be BMI, I think we call the other one BMI OOP1, BMI OOP2. All right, again, we want version 8 or .NET 8. And I'm going to click create. And in just a second, it'll come back and it'll make that for us. There it is. The other one, I just want them to look similar to one another. So I made the size here 1405 by 702. So let's do the same thing here. In fact, let's do a file save all. And since it's another program, we can still call this when we rename the form FRM BMI, just like we did before. Totally fine. Oops. And of course, I changed the wrong one, which was really stupid. So let's see if we can do it here. There we go. All right, that should be okay. And again, the size of this, there's our size. Let's change the color of it. The other one was kind of that orangish. We'll make this yellow so that'll stick out. All right. Now I'm going to come over just because it'll make it much quicker. We'll probably get this one done in around 10 minutes. All right. Because I can copy tons of the stuff I had in here before. All right. So I'm going to do Control A, Control C to copy that. Control V to paste it. Let's change the color of these. I'm going to keep that black instead of making the text white. That's a little hard on the eyes. Okay, so we've got all of that. And you should know by now, it kept our names. So if we look in here, we still have first name, last name, height, weight, BMI, BMI status. Same thing with the text boxes, our buttons. That's all cool. Our list box, that's cool. But remember, what we do have to change or add is it does not copy over the accept and cancel buttons. So let's put those in. It does not copy over our start position of center screen. And it also does not copy over the tab order. Now that I think about it, the tab order for the other one that we did, it was screwed up because I added this later. So let's redo the tab order. So view tab order, and it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, so view tab order. So that one is done. So let me do a file save all on this and come back to the other one. All right, and we're going to set it up the same way. So view tab order. And again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Doesn't matter which of these you do next. I'll put it 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. View tab order. So that one's done. We're going to do our calculate in just a second. You'll notice again, it's not there. We'll do our clear in just a second. And again, it's not there. And we will do our exit. And again, it's not there. And we get the 3 errors. All right, so I'm going to come back to where we just were. And I'm going to copy in my calculate. My clear and my exit. Yeah, I can put that in too. There, get rid of some of the errors I had. And finally, again, the exit. So I'm going to copy in all of this, just copy in everything I got here. All right. Now it's giving me errors here because I'm missing a curly brace. And look at that. That's the problems with copy and pasting. That was all on me. So, all right. So I've got a lot of this, like I said, is already done in here. Not all of it, but a lot of it is already done. So this says non-nullable property BMI status must contain a null value when exiting constructor. All right, well, we haven't even written anything else in there. Now, one nice thing, just so you know this, one nice thing that you can do in here, you can do it, but we're going to have a better way that we'll do it when we get to chapter 16. And that is, I can grab this person class that we did before, right mouse click on it, click copy, go over to my second project, right at the top of the project, right mouse click, and choose paste. Now that is in here as well. Person class is in here. I'm going to add another class in just a moment. I'm going to add our validator class in just a moment. All right. But for right now, we've got a lot of this done already. All right, don't worry about those. I think these are going to go away in just a second. But if I change this so that my startup project is BMI OOP2, all right, and I go in and I run this. I don't know why it's taking so long. Let's see, there it is. So again, I can put junk in there. All right, I can clear, I can exit. Everything's cool so far. All right. So the next thing I want to do though is I want to come in and I want to add another class in here. And that is I want to add a validator class. So let me close this one there. So I'm going to come in here, right mouse click. I'm going to choose add. I'm going to go down to class and I'm going to put in here validator.cs. There it is. I just automatically do this and this right away. I don't think I've ever made a class internal. And all the difference, just so you know, with internal, that means basically you're making it internal to everything that's in this project. I don't know why they don't default that to public. They never have. All right. So I think I've got this saved as well. Let me look. So there will be my validator. This should look pretty familiar to you. Is present, is in 32, is decimal. I don't need an is operator, but is within range. All right, so I'm just going to copy all of that and get rid of the one that says is operator. That doesn't make any sense here. So I'm going to copy in is present, is in 32, is decimal, and the is within range. Okay, so I'll put those right here. And that one, like I said, with the operator, I'm just getting rid of that one. We're not using an operator in here, that's why. All right, so let's see what we have in here and if it's giving us any errors. There's nothing marked in here. This is the same as present we have been using. This is the same is in 32 that we have been using. This is the same is decimal that we have been using. Now I'll leave the is in 32 in here. We don't really have any ints, but later I may decide, for example, I want to go back and make height and weight rather, make them ints instead of decimal. So I'll leave it in there. These are going to end up being my min height, my max height, my min weight, and my max weight. All right. And again, there really and truly shouldn't be anything that I just told you that, for lack of better words, is a big surprise to you. All right. Okay. So let's go back into here. And at the top, just as we had done previously, I'm going to declare and initialize those 4 program constants. All right, so I have my const, decimal, min height equal to 12m. Again, I'm just going to copy them. Max height will be 96m. Min weight will be 1m. And max weight will be 777. And again, you could always adjust these if you didn't like the way that I did them. All right, so that's all of those. Okay, now what we're going to change in here, I'm going to copy a little of it just as we get started. And that is, I'm going to copy just this. I'm not going to use a try-catch, but I am going to copy this stuff. All right. So let's go in and write this. We're in our calculate. All right. So if is valid data which we'll write in a minute. So don't worry that it's giving us an error here. Then we want to do all this. So we want to get the data from the text boxes. Just like before, we want to say person equals new person. And again, we're passing in the first name, the last name, the height and the width. The height and the weight, I should say, sorry. All right. Then, just like before, we're going to say person dot BMI and BMI status. All right. We're going to say txt BMI dot text equals person dot BMI dot toString N2. Just this is exact same way we did it before. txt BMI status dot text equals person dot BMI status. Again, nothing new there. And again, we're going to come in and lst results dot items dot add person dot toString. That's all the same. Let's put in comments like we did before. All right, so instantiate a new person object. Calculate BMI and BMI status. Fill in BMI and BMI status text boxes. Add person object to list box. Okay? All right. We still have an error, of course, because we didn't write this. This is where this will change from what we just did. All right. So let's write that is valid data right now. We'll write it right below the one that we're working on. So I'll put it right here. It's a bool, remember, because it's going to return true, whoops, if it was valid data, and false if it was not. Now, if I want my errors, of course, here to go away, I can just say, for example, return true. And now that error will be gone. There you go. All right. I don't want to do that. So this is right out of the Muroc books. So bool status equal true, string error message equal that. Now, one thing that you, just so you know, there's 4 fields that we're worrying about validating here. So first, validate first name, not empty. After we do that, in just a minute, we're going to validate that the last name is not empty. Okay? Because of the fact that we're going to be doing the height and the weight too, technically, we don't really even have to check. We can check and see if they're empty. All right. So we can put that check in there, or we can just check, because if we check to see whether or not it is decimal and it's empty, it's going to fail that check anyway. So technically, for numeric fields like this, if you're doing more than just checking for empty or not empty, you really don't need an empty check in there. It doesn't hurt, but as the saying goes, it's basically superfluous because it's extraneous. It's something you really don't need. All right. Now I'm going to put this on a new line. I want to do this because I want you to see everything I'm about to type in here. All right. So I can say txt first name dot text, etc. I can do all that. Let's try to make our life a little bit easier. Let's copy these in again. I could have made them global, but I'm only using them in 2 places, so I don't really want to do that. All right, so now rather than typing in all of that, txt.firstname.text.isPresent, I can come in here and just type in first name. All right, now what they show in the book, what we've been doing in the past has always been something like this. First name. And you can do that. It's totally fine to do that, okay? But what I'm going to do is the way they show it in our textbook, and that is to say name of person dot first name. That's the way they show it in the book. Right? Now, what doesn't it like about is present? I don't know. It says it's inaccessible due to its level. Okay, then let's go back and take a look at it. All right, we've got here private. All right, and we've got in here that it's private, etc. We've got all this stuff in here. And I'm looking and I thought I made mine private, but maybe I didn't. Let's come in and just change these. So let's make this public. All right, let's make this public. Let's make this public. And we will make this public. All right, so now those are all public. All right, so let's go back. I'm going to do a file save all. Let's go back into here. Still doesn't like something. It should be recognizing it now. It's not. So let's go back and look again. Public class validator. All right. Our namespace should be okay. Trying to figure out why it's failing when it didn't fail earlier, but we'll see if we can get through this. Public. All right. Oh, it should be recognizing this, and it isn't. Let's see if we can figure out why. Again, that would be our first name and I spelled present wrong, which doesn't help. Name of person dot first name. All right, so let's redo that. NT. All right, it's saying it doesn't like it. An object reference is required for the non-static method or property validator dot is present. I was hoping it was going to give me some kind of a thing in here where it provides a way to fix it. So, and I'm looking at mine, and this is exactly the way that I did it, except I didn't do this. Maybe it doesn't like this. So let's take these, comment them out, and put in what I actually had in here, which was txt first name dot text dot trim. Still doesn't like it. All right. And same message. So let's look at the error message. An object reference is required for the non-static method, property, or member. So let's see. To correct this, first create an instance of the class. If a call to a non-static method from a static method. I don't think we have anything in here exactly that we're doing that's static, but It's valid data. That should be good. That should all be good. So private pool is valid data. Let's just keep going. And I want to see if this is going to work its way out after I do my return. Let's see if that's what the problem could possibly be. All right. I don't think that's it, but we're going to see anyway. All right. Then we're going to do last name. All right. Then we're going to do height. Now with this one, we're going to call, again, we can call the is present, totally fine. I think it's a little bit overkill, but we can do that. That's totally fine. All right. And we'll do the other two then. All right, not just is present, but is decimal and is within range. All right, and what that'll have to do in here is it won't like this because we'll have to put in here min height and max height. All right, now it's still, you can see it, it's still giving us errors. So I'm going to copy this, everything that we did here over, and then just change all my H's and heights to W's and weights. So let me fix those quickly. All right, so that's all that. So let's go into here, and if our error message is not equal to blank, meaning we had an error, then success equal false, false, show error message. It'll just be that error message, and we'll just say entry error. And finally, we will return success. All right, see, it still doesn't like something in here, so what did I? That should be success. All right, so it still doesn't like these. I'll have to figure out why. All right, and I'm sure it's giving me the same error for each one of these. Yep, an object map reference, as you can see, is required for all of them. Well, let's check this. I spelled validator correctly. That'd be a first thing to check right away. Public class validator, it's correct. I'm in the same namespace. Is present, is int, is decimal, is within range. Those all look correct. Oh my goodness. Ah, that is correct. See, I don't think it's going to matter if I undo those like that, and then just change all these accordingly. So this can be now first name. This can be last name. This can be height. And the other one can be weight. Do we need it? Okay. Now I'm wondering, okay, it's giving us errors here. Cannot convert from decimal to string. And that's fine, but it's still giving me those errors. And I can do the same thing down here. All right. Well, I want to fix this, so let's see. Figure out what the heck the problem is. All right. Even though it's early, I'm going to give you till 10:20, and I'm going to try to figure this one out. And then when we come back, hopefully I'll have the answer for you, and then we're going to write one more of these. So let's take a break. I want you to sit and watch me fumble in here. Oh, that could be it. Let's see. I don't think so, huh? It's not it. Oh, son of a gun. Ah, that's it. Static string. I didn't make these static. Bet you that's gonna be it. Is present is decimal is where the heck did I put his present? There it is. Yes, it does. Okay. Setting constructor. Consider declaring the property as null. My status. Oh, yeah. All right, that's fine. Be right back. All right, it is 10:20, so I'm going to start back up again. This was the error that I was getting, and it was giving me the answer right inside of the error, and that was here. All right, and here. But the point is, what I had to do was I had to go back, and in my validator class, I had to make all of the methods static. I added static, I added static, I added static, and I added static. Once I did that, and I went back into my person class, not my person class, I'm sorry, into my code here, and I said validator dot, it recognized is present, it recognized is decimal, it recognized is within range. All right, so why is that? All right, well, what I did was I went out and I looked up this online. Okay, what does static mean in C#? And I did it right before we came back. So, this person says, I'm confused. What does static really mean? So somebody in here answered, and this was considered when it gets the green check mark, it considers that to be the best answer. The bottom line is this. What we were trying to do in our program was what didn't work originally was to say validator dot. The reason it didn't work is since those methods were not static, you couldn't use the name of the class followed by the name of the method. Rather, we would have had to have created an instance of the validator class. Then we could have said that instance dot is present. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to use things directly from the validator class. So we wanted to call the is present, the is decimal, the is in 32, the is within range right from validator itself. We couldn't do that until we actually went in and made each one of those, we made each one of those static. Now, I don't know if it'll help any, but I am going to grab this URL that's here and I'm going to put it in here. So at least you can see where I got it from. All right. Now, I haven't even run it. I don't, since I did this, but it should now work. All right. So now notice if I don't put anything in there. Well, doesn't like something. Okay. Okay, here's the problem. Okay, I'll tell you exactly what the problem is. Right here, I'm telling it to do all this and it's empty. And then I'm trying to check and see if it is present. No, I don't want to do that. All right, so I am going to get rid of these. All right, I am going to get rid of all those and I am going to use txt first name dot text dot trim, and I'm going to use txt last name dot text dot trim, and I'm going to use txt height dot text dot trim, And finally, I'm going to use txt, well, on all these. So let's make all these changed. And these will become then txt. Wait. Well, let's see what we did here. So that was last name, first name, last name, height, height. And these should have been a wait. I don't even know what the heck this is doing in here. First name, good gravy. Last name. Get rid of both those. So that was height. This would be weight. All right, I think it's clean now. Let's see. Now, if I put nothing in here, there we go. First name is a required field. Last name is a required field. Height is a required field. Height must be a valid decimal. Weight is a required field. Weight must be a valid decimal. Very similar to what we have seen earlier in the semester. As I start to fill these in, now I get the first name message disappears. Now the last name message has disappeared. If I put this in, I still get that it must be a valid integer. Remember that the thing for this was 12 to 96. So if I put 11 in here, height must be between 12 and 96. If I put 97 in there, same thing. I'm going to clear that in just a minute. But if I put 72, now if I put in this, weight must be a valid decimal value. And that was between 1. So let's put 0 and 778. All right, so if I come in here, do 111, okay, that's an underweight. If I clear, there's an optimal weight. There's an overweight. And there's an obese. So they are all working right now. All right. So like I said, you will have all of these as we get going. All right, so file, save all. And I'm going to do this. This might not make a lot of sense right now, but it will, and hopefully in a second. Right, I'm closing everything. And now I'm going to basically do the same program, but instead of working on it with BMI, I'm going to be working on it with an employee, and we want the employee to get paid. All right, so I'm going to come in here and do a file, right mouse click rather, add new project. This will again be a Windows Forms app, not a .NET framework. And this will be employee OOP1. And just like before, like I said, I'm going to open up because that's going to be based off of this one. So the size on here. All right. Change the background color. All right. I'm again going to copy everything in here. Even though it's a different program, I'm going to be able to just make some minor modifications, hopefully, and fix it. All right, let's make this green. And we'll make that background black, the font color. All right, so we've got all this again. It'll still be first name, it'll still be last name rather than height. This will be hours worked. This will be hourly rate, and I just realized I screwed up. I forgot one in here, so let me fix that. And this is going to be an employee number. And everything else is okay, but I am going to change this. For the hours worked, I'm just going to put hours here. I want to try to make it as easy as possible for the person running the program to have a clue as to what's going on. So I'm going to change it like that. I don't know if I'd have enough room to put hours worked, but I'm just going to do it like that. And for rate, like that. Oops, that. Anyway, here we go. I think at least everything else is set up. So let's double check. I didn't change the name of my form, stupid me, but that's okay. Let's see if I can now. If I do a file save all, if I can still change the name of my form. I didn't mind. Good. All right. So far as I can tell, I've renamed everything. They don't have none of the old stuff, so to speak, is in there. So I'm basically, again, going to come in and do this kind of from scratch, for lack of better words. So we'll do our calculate in just a second. Again, you don't see it. All right. We'll do our clear. And we will do our exit. Now, one thing that I found, and I could have done that here, but I didn't. When I removed the form and then recreated it, then when I double clicked, it did show me the stuff. So again, why that is, I don't know. Really have no idea. It's kind of stupid in my opinion. So there's calculate. Here will be clear. And finally exit. When you're still there, I hit a button. Here we go. I should tape that button shut, but I didn't. Okay. Hopefully you're all still there. Exits. All right. All my errors are gone. There. Okay. So I've got all that working. Let's come in and first of all, let's go in and let's create our employee class. All right. This is a new class, so I'm not going to copy the one from before. I will copy the validator for the next iteration of this, but not here. So employee OOP1, I'm going to add, and I'm going to add a class. I'm going to call it what it is, which is employee.cs. There it is. Again, I'm getting rid of these. I am making this public. All right. And I'm going to set this one up like I did the last one. So in fact, this one we'll make, in fact, let's do it differently. I'm doing it now off the top of my head, but I think this will work. I was going to make them all public again, but let's make them private. Hopefully this will work and I won't screw it up. All right, so we've got all that. They're all private now. So these will still be our class variables. We will have a constructor, just one. Let's make it a full arg constructor. All right. And let's see. Again, I can if I want to. Usually when you make them private like this, you do use the lowercase like we've been doing. Okay. All right. So let's come in here and this will be string for the first name, string for the last name, string for the employee number, decimal for the hours worked, and decimal for the hourly rate. All right. And you can see it's already, I don't need the this dot in there. I can put it in, but I'm going to say first name equals FN last name, employee number, hours worked, and hourly rate. Again, love it or hate it, but sometimes having the IntelliSense is a nice thing. All right, so we've got our constructor. Now, the way I'm going to show you this is going to be a little bit different. Why? Because different programmers write code in different ways. All right. There's no established standard typically when you do something like this. It can be done in many different ways. That's what I'm showing you here. All right. And the last name will basically be set up the same. So I'm just going to copy this down. And we've got left, we've got our employee number, which again is going to be basically the same thing. Should be a little E, sorry. All right, that handles our strings. Now we've got to come in and do our hours worked and our hourly rate. Okay. All right. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to come in here. I'm going to put some constants in here. So we'll have 4 of them just like before. So I'll have const decimal min hours equals 0m. Const, I spelled decimal wrong. Good gravy, Jeff. Max hours, and that will be 84. These are just literally, these are arbitrary values, but I figured nobody's going to work more than 12 hours a day. So all right, so that's all those. So now I can come in here and I can check it against those. So I can say if hours worked is less than min hours, or value is greater than max hours. Now, instead of throwing like we did here, well, we're throwing a new argument exception. We could do that. We can also throw an out of range exception. Why don't we do that? And it'll just say rate must be between, oops, sorry, between min hours. It's not rate, it's hours here. Hours must be between min hours and max hours. And we'll just call that invalid hours. All right. And then we want to do a similar thing for our hourly rate. All right, so before we go back to the other file, let's go through this. All right, so Nothing new here. Constant's a constant. Doesn't really matter what file you define it in. It still is a constant. That's fine. This is new. Here we made them private. Earlier, we made them public, and we did the get set on them. And we did the get set because in the first example that we used, we were doing it differently as far as how we were validating. Now, I'm making them private so that when we're setting them up, again, this hasn't really changed much, but this, now notice when I use it in here, now you make it capitalized, lowercase, capitalized. These aren't standards I came up with, someone else did. This says just get the first name. This is doing a little bit of work. It says if we made it empty, and notice I use the is null or empty, value is a special thing. It's whatever got passed into it. It's kind of a magical value, so to speak, no pun intended. So if we left it blank, we're throwing a new argument exception that says first name cannot be empty. Then we do the same thing for both the last name and we do the same thing for the employee number because each one of them is of type string. Then we get down to our hours worked and we grab our hours worked, but this is a range check. So if the hours that we put in are out of range, meaning they're less than 0 or greater than 84, we now are throwing an argument out of range exception that says hours must be between 0 and 84. And then we do the same thing for our hourly rate. Hopefully I didn't miss anything in there. I could have. Hopefully I didn't. Now we're not done yet. We've now handled all of this. But remember that one of the things we want to do is we want to be able to figure out a gross pay. We don't even have that in here. So let's put that down here. Return a decimal, which will be our gross pay. All right. Now I'm going to do this a little bit different. Again, because I want you to see this. So I'm going to put in here get. Now I'm going to put private set. All right. What that is going to mean is I'm going to put a public method right here that's called calculate gross pay. By doing this, what I'm saying is the only way that I'm going to be able to actually set the gross pay is through this method. You may or may not remember when we started talking about object-oriented programming. I said this way earlier in the semester because we looked a little bit at objects at that time. So one of the things I said during that time was, if you want a real quick, down and dirty definition of how or what object-oriented programming is, it is using public methods in order to be able to modify private variables. And that's truly what we're doing in this example. All right, this is truly what we're doing in this example. All right, it's changed over the years and morphed a little bit so we can do some of the other stuff I'd shown you earlier. All right, it's one thing about programmers, if they think that they can find a better way of doing something, they'll find a way typically of doing it. So in here, I'm going to say, if the hours worked, let's go add a couple more constants in here. Const decimal max non-OT, and that'll be 40 hours. That's the most hours you can work without getting overtime. Const decimal overtime, and I'm going to set that equal to 1.5 M. In other words, you get time and a half, if you spell it right, for overtime. Okay? All right. I didn't even do that in mine. I put in hard coding in here, but I think it's cleaner when you do it like this. So if it's less than or equal to max non-OT. Well, what do you know? You know, no overtime was worked. So the gross pay is simply equal to the hours worked times hourly rate. But just to be sure, I'm going to do a convert dot to decimal on there. And I'll put in hours worked times hourly rate. Okay, because again, they have no overtime coming. Else, they do have overtime. So overtime was worked. So no overtime worked and overtime was worked. So I'm going to say gross pay, and there's different ways again of doing this. Gross pay is equal to convert, let's do the straight time first, convert to decimal, max non-OT times the hourly rate. Okay, that's your straight time, plus convert dot to decimal, the hours that you worked minus the max non-OT times the hourly rate times overtime. And if I know it's kind of hard to read, etc. on here, but it is the same thing that we did before we looked at doing this with classes. All right, we're doing it the same way, is what I'm telling you. All right, we're still not done, because what we'll want to do here is to override our toString method. All right, and almost always, in fact, I've never wanted to use what they give you here, so I always get rid of that. So first name, last name, the employee number, the hours, the rate, and the gross pay. Now, a couple things that we probably would want to do in here. All right, hours worked, I'm going to make that to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to put in here a colon and 2. The hourly rate, I'm going to put that in as a colon C for currency. And I'm going to do the same thing for gross pay, colon C. Now and only now have we gone in and actually completed this class. You notice it's bigger than the last class. It's over 100 lines. It's 125 lines. All right. And I'm really not putting in any comments in here. All right. So let's go back. I don't need this BMI thing in here anymore. So I'm going to get rid of those and come back to here. All right. So what we want to do now, what we want to do here is to come in and basically, for lack of better words, set everything up. All right. Now, let's see. I'm looking at what I did on my copy, and I think I've got a bunch of code in there I don't need. So I'm going to try to change it on the fly. So this will be interesting to see whether or not it even works. So you might say, well, then why don't you just not change it? Just leave it the way it is. Because I think I've got some extraneous code in there that I don't need. Okay, that should be 0 to 99.99. There we go. All right. So what I did in mine was I came in here and at the top in here, I put in the same constants I already had. I don't think there's any reason I need to do that. All right, I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there is. So let's do these quickly as we always do. So txt first name dot text is equal to nothing. Txt last name dot text is equal to nothing. Txt employee number dot text is equal to nothing. Txt hours worked dot text is equal to nothing. Txt hourly rate dot text is equal to nothing, and txt gross pay dot text is equal to nothing, and txt first name dot focus. All right, I guess I didn't put that into a clear form routine, so let's do that. All right, so that's all done. And our exit, as always, I'm just going to go in and copy it. From right here. All right. I don't remember. We have changed all these. All right. We have our start position wasn't set, so let's set that. Let's make sure our tab order is set. So view tab order. And it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's screwed up. I'll fix it in a minute. 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. And another view tab order. Let's fix that. That's got to be hourly rate. And I screwed it up, so that'll just be rate. And we'll put in here 0 through 99.99. That looks good. Okay. So we've got all that done. Let's go into our calculate. All right, so there's our exit program. Here's our calculate. So this is what we have to do. So just like before, I'm going to put it into a try catch, and then I'm going to redo it in a couple minutes, copying over virtually 3/4 of the program, and we'll put in the validator class. All right. Okay, so again, this is very, very similar to what we did on the last one. All right, this is also going to be, just so you know, very, very, very similar, all right, to what we did in the previous program. All right, so I should say it's going to be very similar to what you're going to do on your pretest. All right, now what I did on mine, but this is, to me, I made it harder than it had to be. I said here, if, and I did another check, if hours is less than min hours or greater than max hours. I don't think I have to do that because I'm already doing it in the class. So I'm going to come in here and create a new employee. And notice it tells me what I need. So I need a first name. I need a last name. I need an employee number. I need an hours worked, and I need an hourly rate. Just like that. That should be everything I need in there. All right. Okay. So let's see, we've got that. So that will, again, instantiate a new employee object right there. Object. All right. Next, we want to fill in the gross pay text box. All right, so TXT gross pay dot text equals our class employee dot gross pay dot toString currency, because we're putting into a text box. Finally, we want to add the current employee to the list box. All right. And we'll say LST results dot items dot add our employee dot toString. Okay, the good news is, let's see, it says expected a catch. We didn't put one in, so let's put that in. Catch exception EX, and we'll just say message, our message box, show error message. Did I not copy that? No, I didn't, so let's bring that down. There it is. So show error message. All right, we'll just say something like invalid input. I'm not even sure if this is going to get hit, but that's okay. And we're going to say input error. All right, I don't know, because this is much different from what I wrote. And I'm hoping that it's going to still work. Now it says I'm not using this, so let's use that. So we'll say ex.message plus, and we'll put in again a couple blank lines, plus, and then we'll put in our own message here. All right, now I have no errors here, so let's see if it works. File, save all. And I don't think I set it to this one. I did not. All right, nothing in there. There's my error, invalid input. Okay. I should get it again because I don't have a last name. Now, if I click calculate, all right, I'm still getting that. Let's see if I put in something that's out of range, if it's going to catch it. Still telling me it's an invalid input. Okay. Let's try 50. Oh, that's the employee number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should not be read only. That's screwed up. So this isn't going to work. Let's fix that and make it so it's not a read only field. Sorry about that. That's the other thing that happens when you do this. Weird stuff happens there. It's got to reset itself a lot. Okay, we don't want that to be read-only, so let's try that again. I'm going to put me in there. 50 and 10, that should give me 550 here. It did not, so let's see. Everything is in here, so that's good. It did find my employee, it found my name, it found my employee number, it found my hours, it found my rate. It didn't like the gross, so let's look and see if we can figure out why. Well, I think I know what it is, but let's see. I'm going to go back to the employee class here. And where we were going to do this thing with the gross pay, we did calculate gross pay. I'm going to pass into this. I should know it already, but that's fine. I'm going to do it like this. It's not giving me an error, though. Let's see. But I'm going to put in here decimal hours worked, decimal hourly rate. I shouldn't have to do that. All right, I shouldn't. That should be, again, superfluous to do that. But let's see. So now when I come in here and I calculate, I'll have to pass those in because I'm not doing it now. So let's figure out the gross pay. So I'm going to do this. Decimal, let's do it up here. Decimal gross, we'll set that equal to 0 M's. Just set it equal to nothing. All right, then down here, I'm going to say gross equal employee dot gross pay, and we're going to pass into this the hours and the rate. H rate. That's why it gave me an error. All right. Now what doesn't it like? Non-invocable. Okay. It's telling me what I'm trying to do is it says I'm trying to use a member as though it was a method. All right. And that the reason for that is, I'll show you right now, my own goofiness. And that is, in here, we called it calculate gross pay. And in here, I did not. Oh, I thought it would take that. You're not going to avoid the decimal. Okay. So that'll have to be a decimal. And we'll have to return it. Okay. Oops, I don't know why I did that. All right, but now let's see if it works. I don't think the tab order was set here. I'm not sure if it was or not. So, all right, that's wrong. But it is calculating something. That's good. But 50 times 10 is not. So I must have a wrong formula in there. Everything is printing out, so that's good. So let's look at the formula we put into our employee class. All right, max non-OT times the hour right here. That should be a minus sign, minus. All right, let's try it again. Oops, no, that's fine. I've got to go back and reset the tab order because I made this one that was read-only. It's not read-only anymore. That's now correct. All right, if I do it again and put in John's wife, Mary, and she worked 40 hours and she makes $50 an hour. So she should make $2,000. And she does. So all of that now is working. I want to quickly clean this up. All right. And that means I want to go back to here and I want to change the tab order. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's make it 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, view tab order. All right, so that one is done. I'm going to keep going, and I'll probably go till about 11:30, and then we'll be finished for the day. All right. So I'm going to go and come back in here and create another one. So add a new project. Again, be just like before. This will be employee OOP2. And this one is going to have in it the validator class. All right. So again, I'm just going to steal a whole bunch of the junk that's in here. I don't want to change that one. Why I do that, I don't know. All right. All right. Like I said, I'm going to go and copy in a bunch of stuff here. I'll try to remember to go back and change the text for the form on each one so you'll know exactly what went with what. So. Okay. And again, I'll try to go back and make sure the accept button and the cancel button is set on all of these. I'll do that as soon as class is over because otherwise I'll probably forget. All right. As I showed you before, I'm going to come in here and from the original one, I'm going to grab the employee class, right mouse click, copy, come down to here and paste. So now we have the employee class. In addition, because it really hasn't changed any, I'm going to go up to the AWD2 one here, and I'm going to grab the validator, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that in as well. So we now have both our validator class and our employee class in here. All right, now you may have noticed when we were looking at this stuff, right, you might think, for example, there's got to be a better way to do this than copying that. There is. When we get to chapter 16, we're going to talk about what that is. I will teach you in chapter 16 how to make a class library. All right. And then when we do that, hopefully some of this stuff, it's not that any of this stuff that we're doing now is necessarily that difficult. Right? It's just we're doing a lot of the same stuff we have been doing it, but we're doing it in a different way. All right. So I think our employee class will be okay. And I think our validator class will be okay. So I'm going to come in here, and you'll notice again, we don't have that. So again, I'm going to steal this. Let's see. We don't have that, and we don't have that. So we're going to put those in right now. If somebody wants to take the time to look up why this is the case, and if there's a better way of doing it than the way I'm showing you, please do and let me know. I'll be glad to give you full credit for that. So clear and okay. I should have left that other one open and I didn't. So the clear is done. Let's quickly finish up the exit. So that's done. All right. So we've got the validator in here now. Okay. So we're going to put that in. Once we put that in, we should be able to test it then. And hopefully that's all we've got left. We'll find out in just a minute. All right. Now it's telling me too that we have an error in here in our list box. Again, sometimes when you copy like this, things go a little funky, for lack of better words. So let's see. There it is. Did we rename the list box? LSD results. So that's okay. But when I come in here and look at the error, it's got it in here. And it says index changed equals LST results index changed. I don't even want to put anything in there for selected index changed. I don't know how that thing got in there. So I'm going to comment that out. And I've got another one for my last name for my text changed. I don't know how that got in there. Well, what that did was that made a ton more errors. So let's fix them. All right, I'm going to go back into design mode here. Try to find it. There it is. Click on that, go over to here, and see if anything got set. There it is. Nope. trying to figure out why those two lines got put in there. I didn't think I put them in. That was that one. It says we don't have anything for selected index changed. All right, well, could we put one in? The answer is yes. All right, I don't know why you'd want to, but just to try to see if we can get rid of the errors like that. All right, I'm going to see if I can do that right now. That's interesting. There's the calculate. All right. Oh, gravy. Boy, you got all these texts changed in here, and I didn't change any of them. This is all because I copied. I should have just went and done it by hand, and I didn't. Let's see, do these text boxes have a text changed event? All right, I can't even go in and see that, so. I thought I'd be able to just comment that out because I don't want to do that anyway. Oh my goodness, it's got click events for everything that's in here. I'm just going from bad to worse here. All right. All right, all those that came in here stupidly on my part because I went and did all that copy and pasting should now be corrected. I've commented all of it out. None of it's needed. All right, it was just stupid. It's funny because I did this before. Of course, it didn't work like that, but it's okay. So let's see when I come in here. I didn't put all my code in my calculate yet, and that's okay. But I want to set this as my startup project. It's not giving me any errors. That's good. Clear works and exit works. Good. All right, that was my biggest concern. So let's do the calculate. All right, we'll do that right now. There it is. And just like before, we're going to say if is valid data, just like we did before, even though we haven't written and is valid data, we're going to write it in a minute. All right. And then similarly to what we did before, I'm going to make variables here. So first name equals txt first name dot text dot trim last name You can do a convert dot to decimal. You can do a parse dot to decimal. There's a lot of different ways all this stuff can be done. All right. I think in the other one I called it H rate for hourly rate. So I'll do that, be consistent here. That should be hours worked. And this will be hourly rate. All right, so we've got all that. So that's setting everything up. Okay, now we can instantiate a new employee. We'll have to write the is valid data. We'll do that in a minute. So just like before, we're going to say oh, this is interesting. All right, let's see. One thing I did, and this was another screw up on my part, but I want you to see this. It's a good screw up. All right, this is our namespace. So basically, this is the name of our project folder, employee OOP2. When I copied in employee, notice it says employee OOP1 because that was the namespace of the old one. So I'm going to manually change that to a 2 right there. And then for my validator, it says BMI OOP2. So I'm going to manually change that to employee OOP2. That is some of the problems that you can run into when you do a boatload of copy and paste like I just did. By no means am I saying you should do that. I just don't think you should have to watch me make all the errors that I make all the time when I'm typing. So I try to minimize that. So we want to make a new employee, pass in again, as it says, the first name, the last name, the employee number, the hours, and the rate. All right. Now we have to calculate the gross pay. So I'm going to do it just like we did before. And what I mean is I'm going to come up here and say decimal gross pay equals 0M. Then right here, I'm going to calculate the gross pay, call method to calculate gross pay. So gross pay equals calculate. Well, what did we call that? I'll have to go back and look in here. Oh, it equals employee dot calculate gross pay. And again, it will need the hours and it will need the rate. Each rate. All right. Then we have to fill in the gross pay text box. All right. And finally, we have to add it to the list box. So add current employee to list box. Dot items dot add, and it'll be our employee dot toString. All right. Says here the name valid data doesn't exist because we're not finished. All right, after we do all that, we've got to write the is valid data. So let's write that. That's a bool, is valid data. All right, not real long, enough, I guess. So here we'll first validate the first name. So error message. Now notice, because we did make those other ones static, you can see the is present, the is decimal, etc. that we did not see before. So is present, and that will be txt first name dot text. And again, I'm doing it the way they show it in the book. Name of employee dot first name. So that validated the first name. Why I've got a comma there, but I do. So what doesn't it like here? Cannot assign show error message. That's not what I want. This should just be error message. Okay, why am I not getting it? Because up here I have to put in bool success equal true string error message equal the empty string. There we go. Okay, so we validated the first name. Then we have to validate the last name. Then we want to validate the employee number. Now, all three of those fields, those are all string fields. So the only thing we're going to run on there is the is present. All right. Now we have to also do the hours worked and the hourly rate. And in fact, I'm not going to do that. We could, just like I did before, we could add all these in and then change this. I guess that's a little cleaner to do. You know what? Heck with it. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. It's working now. So let's validate the hours worked. We'll start with this one. All right. All right. And then finally, now this is going to be a little different because the other one is the is within range. All right. But when you look at it, employee, we already are handling it the within range. We're handling that in here. So technically, I don't have to handle it in the other one. All right, so I think I can just leave it the way it is. I think it'll work just, hopefully at least, it'll work just fine. All right, let me close a few things here. Employer, validator. All right, so the other thing we want to do is we want to do the same stuff in here for the hourly rate. Like that. So hourly rate, hourly rate, hourly rate, hourly rate. All right, we're still not done, but we're almost there. We haven't returned anything yet. So if error message is not equal to nothing, it means we had one or more errors. So success is going to be equal to false. We can do our show error message. And we have to return success. All right, all my errors are gone from here, so let's run it. see if it works. I want to set my startup project. I think I already did, but just to be sure. All right, if this is empty, first name, last name, etc. So I'm getting all those. If I put in a first name, all right, and if I put in a last name, and if I put in an employee number, all right, now we get these. Hours worked is a required field and must be a decimal. So we should still get must be a decimal. What if we put something out of range here? All right, we're catching, oh, it's giving us an entry error. It's not catching it. It's not catching the one that we put in the class itself. So I might want to move that from the class into here. All right, 50, and let's try 10. See if I get 550. I do. And everything is printing out. I clear and put in Mary Jones. $40 hours a week and makes $40 an hour, should be $1,600, and it is. All right, I will clean this up. I promise, try to at least clean it up. And I already have a GitHub repo out there. And the repo is going to be named this, but you'll see it. I will send it to you, but just so you know. That'll be the repo. It's called EE121 because that's the first one we did today, and practice OOP. So we've done 4 practice problems today, 5 really. 2 BMI, 2 employee, and the 12-1. All right. Tomorrow when you come in, my hope then is we'll start right away. I'm going to do the LBL1 flashcards. Then I'm going to do the LBL2 bank login. Then I'm going to do the LBL3 game break. And if there's time, we'll go in and we'll do the LBL6. If there's not time, Wednesday will be a lab, but Thursday I'm going to go over the pretest, which is going to be similar in nature to what we just did with the employee stuff. So maybe I'll put off this one because it's probably the hardest, or one of the hardest. I'll put off this one till Thursday, but I will have done then 4 of the 6 homework problems with you. All right. So I will see you tomorrow at 8:05. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for listening.